Today, I'm going to be really honest with what narcissistic abuse recovery actually looks like. Not the perfect version that people tell you about, but the real version that comes from lived experience. If you don't know me, I'm Louise Ann. I'm a female empowerment coach and I specialize in narcissistic abuse recovery, when I can say it. This comes from personal experience. My father was emotionally abusive, very narcissistic, and then I ended up in a relationship and married to a man very similar, emotionally abusive, narcissistic behavior. I'm now divorced from him. I have an incredible partner, rebuilt my life, and I am living a life that I never believed was possible for me. And that comes from my recovery, my healing journey. And I want to talk to you about that today. What I want to be very clear on is, firstly, healing isn't linear. It isn't, this is where you are, this is where you are, you had this experience, and then you move forward and you move past it. So see if I can do this without it creating too much of a reflection from my lights. Borrowed this from my daughter. So when you experience, so you're living your life, quite happily going along. And then what happens is an event will happen, like an abusive event. And then you go through and you live your life. And then suddenly your life cannot continue in the same form that it always has, because there is now an experience that has forever shifted and altered the way that you will live your life. So that event created a ripple effect on everything that happens after that. You can't live your life like it never happened because it happened. What happens with narcissistic abuse is you are living your life, and then something will happen. There will be an event, they will do something, and then you carry on living your life, and then there'll be another event and they will do something else, and then there'll be another event and they'll do something else. And especially if you are counter-parenting, it means that even after the relationship ends and you're going through your healing journey and you are recovering from all of these events, they will then use the relationship that they still have with the children to create more of these wounds, to create more of these experiences that you have to go through. And so you are constantly shifting and changing the trajectory of your life because of the experiences of dealing with this narcissistic person. So when people are like, well, why don't you just get over it? My life has been forever changed. All of these experiences, from when the first time that they made you feel like you were worthless and put you down and made you feel like you were pathetic, to the time that they cheated, to the time that they tried to isolate you from all of your friends and family, to the time at parents' evening when they showed up when they shouldn't have been there and you ended up having an anxiety attack, to the time when they refused to have the kids and you were having to deal with your children having an emotional break, whatever. They will constantly cause these wounds in your life that your life then needs to restructure itself around. So healing isn't linear, and you're never going to be able to live your life like the abuse didn't happen, because your life has forever been changed because of the experience that you had. It doesn't mean that you can't live a happy and fulfilled life. It doesn't mean that you can't live a life of incredible experiences and joy and freedom. It doesn't mean that you can't take back control. But what it does mean is that those experiences are part of your past. And you need to have that belief and that understanding that actually, just because they are part of my past, it doesn't mean that they are going to be a part of my future. I can rearrange my life and I can accommodate all of these woundings that I've had. It doesn't mean that these woundings are going to continue to happen to me in the future. They are part of my past. I accept them. My life has been changed because of them. I accept that. But it doesn't need to be restrictive anymore. And so that's what you do. So you continue living your life. You're never going to get to a point where it is like they never happened, like that experience never happened. But what you will do is you will live a life of freedom, where you take back control, where you take back your power. And that's where I'm at. It's where I can talk about it. And it's like, yeah, these are experiences that I had in my past, but I no longer feel any emotional connection or any difficulty in talking about it because I no longer feel the pain or the restriction that I used to feel when talking about it. I'm free of that now. So that's why I do what I do. It's why I help the way that I help, because I have now got past that point. So I know that you can too. So first point, it's not linear. You will always live with these wounds, but they're not going to restrict you the way that they currently are. Secondly, it is easier to be a victim than it is to be a survivor. And I don't just mean it is easier for you, but it is also easier for a lot of people around you. You will find that people will want to keep you in victim mentality because it is easier to deal with somebody who is in victim mentality than somebody that is taking back control of their own life, especially if people feel guilt or shame around what they did or what they didn't do during the time of the relationship. So if there are experiences where there are other people that feel like they failed to protect you or they feel like they should have done more, then it can be very difficult for them when you take back control of your own life, because okay, now they don't know how to try and make up for their failings, for their lacking. And it can be very difficult. They want to keep you in that victim mentality so that they can continue to look after you and care for you and pander to you and everything else. It can be a lot easier to be a victim where people are looking after you and taking care of you than actually being a survivor where you're like, okay, that's an experience that I had, but I'm taking back control of my own life and I am going to step forward and do that. It is so important that you do take that step out of victim mentality and start taking back control of your own life, because you cannot heal when you are a victim. You can only heal when you are moving past that victim mentality and you start to take back control. So victim mentality means that you are handing your power over to somebody else. Those things happened to me. They did that to me. I was powerless in it. Whereas actually you weren't. You always had a degree of power. You always had a degree of control. You just didn't realize it at the time. And now you need to look at it and say, okay, I have control and I have power of my own life and I get to decide what happens next. That is where you move into being a survivor. It's where you are no longer handing your power over to somebody else. So that's the second point. And finally, there is no fix. There is no cookie cutter fix that will just make everything better for you. Healing from narcissistic abuse and the journey of narcissistic abuse recovery is a journey of self-awareness. It is a journey to self-connection. Narcissistic abuse is about isolating you from who you truly are. It disconnects you from your power, your intuition, your inner knowing. It is very isolating. It's why it takes so long to heal, because it isn't just a psychological. It kind of cuts you off from your heart and your soul and who you truly know yourself to be. And it's that disconnection that you need to heal. And so nobody else can take you on a path to be who you are, because the only person that can walk that path is you. I can teach tools and techniques and I can tell you how I reconnected with myself, but when you are on your narcissistic abuse recovery journey, what you need to do is you need to start being intentional and start deciding what is and isn't for me. What works for me, what doesn't work for me, and start applying yourself to the things that work for you and start allowing things that worked for other people to slip to the side. Simply because it worked for somebody else doesn't mean it's going to work for you, and you shouldn't try and force things that don't work for you simply because somebody else got results from it. If they got results, that's because that was part of their journey, that worked for them on their journey to become who they are. You're not trying to become who they are, you're trying to become who you genuinely, authentically are. And that path can only be taken by you. And so you need to be discerning about what you do and don't do, who you listen to and who you don't listen to, and start knowing that the only person that can truly guide you on that journey, that can take you on that journey, is you. So you need to reconnect to that inner voice, that inner knowing, that inner power, and listening to it. So those are the 3 points that I really want to make. It's not linear. you're never going to reach a point where you never experienced it and like it's like it never happened. It is easier to be a victim than a survivor, but it is more important to be a survivor, because that is where you reclaim your power and that is where you start living your life. And the third point is that not everybody's journey is the same, and simply because something worked for somebody else, you've got to be discerning about what's actually working for you. Your healing journey is a reconnection to who you genuinely are. If you do want to understand more about narcissistic abuse, if you do want to understand the narcissist, not from a point of understanding them because they're important, but understanding what they did and why it impacted you, and that understanding for validation, for comprehension, for just so that you feel more grounded in your knowledge, then I do have an audio course that is available. I will link that in the description below. Don't get caught up in psychoanalyzing the narcissist. You should not spend more time trying to understand the person that hurt you than you do trying to understand yourself. Your healing journey doesn't come from understanding them, it comes from understanding you. So you can have a look at the audio course that I've got, Understanding the Narcissist, and focus on it. It's not about understanding them. It is about understanding what they did, why it impacted you. And it's taking that journey and saying, okay, well, this is what happened. Now I understand that and I can comprehend that and I can see why it impacted me, why I allowed it, whatever else. But you can go on that journey. Spend more time connecting with who you are and understanding yourself than you are psychoanalyzing them and why they did what they did.